Welcome to World War. Today we will be talking about a conflict that lasted more than a century. A struggle so fierce it ended with an entire civilization wiped from the map. Imagine a city burning for 17 days. Streets running with blood. Survivors sold into slavery. When the flames finally die, nothing remains but ash where one of the richest powers once stood. This was the fate of Carthage. And this was the legacy of the Punic Wars. In the 3rd century BC, two rising superpowers dominated the Western Mediterranean. Rome, a disciplined and ambitious republic, had conquered most of the Italian peninsula. Its strength lay in its citizen army, organized, relentless, and fiercely loyal to the Republic. Across the sea stood Carthage, a wealthy maritime empire based in North Africa. Founded centuries earlier by Phoenician settlers, Carthage controlled vast trade networks. Its navy ruled the sea. Its wealth was unmatched. For years, the two powers coexisted in uneasy tension. The spark came in 264 BC on the island of Sicily, a strategic crossroads between Italy and Africa. When a local dispute drew both Rome and Carthage into intervention, rivalry turned into open war. Rome had almost no naval experience. Carthage commanded one of the most powerful fleets in the world. But Rome adapted with astonishing speed. After capturing a Carthaginian ship, the Romans copied its design. They built an entire fleet. They introduced a boarding device known as the corvus, transforming sea battles into hand-to-hand combat, where Roman infantry excelled. The First Punic War lasted 23 years. Storms sank fleets. Naval battles destroyed armadas. Tens of thousands drowned. Yet Rome endured. In 241 BC, Carthage sued for peace, surrendering Sicily and paying heavy reparations. Rome had taken its first step toward empire. But Carthage was not finished. Determined to recover, Carthage expanded into Spain, building new wealth and raising a new generation of commanders. Among them was Hannibal Barca. In 218 BC, Hannibal launched one of the boldest campaigns in military history. With tens of thousands of troops and war elephants, he marched across the snow-covered Alps into Italy. The feat stunned Rome. What followed was devastation. At Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae, Hannibal crushed Roman armies. At Cannae alone, perhaps 50,000 Roman soldiers were killed. It was one of the most catastrophic defeats Rome ever suffered. The Republic stood on the edge of collapse. Yet Rome refused to surrender. Instead of confronting Hannibal directly, Rome adopted a strategy of attrition, attacking Carthaginian territories elsewhere. A young Roman commander, Scipio, carried the war into Spain, cutting off Hannibal's reinforcements. Eventually, Scipio took the fight to North Africa itself. In 202 BC, at the Battle of Zama, Scipio defeated Hannibal. Carthage was stripped of its fleet, forced to pay crushing indemnities, and forbidden from waging war. Rome had survived its greatest threat. But resentment festered. For decades, Roman leaders warned that Carthage remained a danger. Cato the Elder ended every speech with, "Carthage must be destroyed." In 149 BC, Rome found its excuse. Claiming treaty violations, Roman forces invaded North Africa. The 3rd Punic War was merciless. Carthage resisted desperately for 3 years. Civilians forged weapons in the streets. Men and women fought side by side as Roman legions tightened the siege. In 146 BC, the walls were breached. Street by street, house by house, Roman soldiers advanced. Fires consumed the city. Survivors were slaughtered or enslaved. Carthage was erased. Rome now stood unchallenged in the Western Mediterranean. Human cost and global impact. The Punic Wars spanned nearly 120 years. Entire generations lived and died under this rivalry. The human toll was staggering. Hundreds of thousands perished in battle. Sailors drowned in naval disasters. Civilians starved during sieges. Families were torn apart by slavery and exile. Carthage's destruction was more than military defeat. It was cultural annihilation. Libraries vanished. Temples were leveled. A civilization that had flourished for centuries disappeared. For Rome, victory brought immense wealth and power. Spain's silver mines filled Roman coffers. North Africa became a breadbasket for the growing republic. Trade routes fell under Roman control. But triumph carried consequences. Wealth flooded into Rome, widening inequality. Enslaved people captured during the wars transformed the economy. Ambitious generals gained fame and influence. weakening the Republic's political balance. The seeds of future civil wars were planted. The Punic Wars reshaped the Mediterranean world. Rome expanded eastward, dominating Greece and Asia Minor. What began as a regional conflict had created the foundation of a vast empire. The Punic Wars were not simply a series of battles. They were a test of endurance. Carthage was wealthy, innovative, and powerful. Rome was relentless. Even after catastrophic defeat, Rome rebuilt and returned to fight again. That refusal to surrender became the defining trait. But victory came at a terrible price. The ashes of Carthage remind us that total war can mean total destruction. When rival powers refuse compromise, entire cultures can vanish. By 146 BC, the Mediterranean belonged to Rome. The Republic had defeated its greatest enemy and opened the path to empire. Yet beneath the triumph lay rivers of blood and the silence of a city erased from history. The Punic Wars did not just decide who controlled the sea. They shaped the destiny of the ancient world, and proved that in the struggle for dominance, survival belongs to the relentless. And sometimes, survival demands the unimaginable.